Everyone, good day. Thanks for joining the Megaport Live Tech Drop this morning. So as usual, we have different essay running Tech Drop on most of the Friday. So today I'll be doing the sharing. So for today, Tech Drop, I'll be sharing on Megaport with AWS Direct Connect and followed by a very short demo. So here's a little bit about me. I'm Serena To. I'm the pre-sale solution architect at Megaport, and I'm based in Singapore. So you can actually email me or connect me at LinkedIn if you have any questions. Yeah. Okay. So who is Megaport and what we do? Okay. So as you can see, this is Megaport Global Private Backbone. So we are a network as a service provider. We operate our own global private backbone, as you can see from the diagram. And all these are fully managed through software-defined network. Okay, so this map shows our global reach. Okay, the dots represent Megaport points of presence around the world. Okay, the red dots. Okay, which also enables very low latency, high performance connectivities. Within the network itself. Today, we are already interconnected with many hyperscalers such as AWS, Azure, GCP, Oracle Cloud, IBM Cloud, okay, Alibaba Cloud, for example. So we provide private, secure, and high-speed connections, okay, within our network itself. So using our network itself, you can have fast deployment across our network as fast as 60 seconds, okay, or through the portal itself. So customers without Megaport today, as you can see from the diagram, they have to set up and maintain separate connections to each of the cloud service provider on the right-hand side, okay, such as AWS, Microsoft Azure, SAP, etc. So there will be many connections to the cloud, and each circuit must be managed individually, increasing operational overhead. Okay. So as more cloud service providers are added, okay, on the right-hand side, complexity will grow rapidly. The cabling also grow very messy, okay. So more cloud service provider actually meant to have more providers, means multiple vendors itself, multiple contracts that you got to take care, and multiple points of contact, okay, between the different vendor, making management of the network, very difficult, okay. Hence, you will get complex connections with limited capacity, okay. So over time, this will be a very expensive infrastructure to manage, okay, harder to scale as well, longer lead time, and also limited reach, okay. So with Megaport, okay, this is how customers can instantly scale connectivities to leading service provider, okay, globally and on demand, okay. As you can see from the diagram, okay, a customer can connect to us through Megaport point of presence, okay, globally through either NNI or a virtual point of presence, okay. You are able to achieve high performance connectivities without large upfront capital investment, okay? Because we have the network that you can ready to tap on. Our one-to-many connectivities model help to simplify architecture. So by allowing you to access to Megaport ecosystem through just one access point, okay? So be it a virtual port or point of presence physically. So this will give you a very cost-effective solution for redundancy and high availability, okay? So with Megaport, as I mentioned, you can connect to all the major hyperscaler, over 1,000 data center and 360 plus service provider around the globe. Okay, I mean it's secure. Your data will travel on a private global network bypassing the public internet. So there will be consistent performance. Okay, like having your own private lease line. Okay, you only pay for the capacity that you deploy. You're able to scale the capacity up and down as on demand. You no longer have to worry about wasted capacity that you didn't utilize. Okay, so you design, deploy, and manage all in a single portal. So you just a point and click on the portal. So you bring your own cloud service key, and our integrations, okay, will make establishing these private connectivities very easy and painless. So this is a quick overview of our Megaport services. So basically, there are three different access products. So mainly we have a port, which is a physical NNI. We have a Megaport cloud router, okay, which is a virtualized router. And we also have a Megaport virtual edge, which is a virtual edge, which is a NFV that you bring your own licensing, okay. I will share a little bit more about Megaport cloud router, okay, in the next few slides. Okay, so this is a Megaport cloud router, which is a layer 3 Megaport productized product. So this is a managed virtual router. So you can treat this like a basic router that give you the ability to interconnect the cloud to cloud for cloud to cloud communications. Okay, so if you have requirements to connect to multi-cloud, you can use this Megaport cloud router. So the features available in the Megaport cloud routers are, we have NET, okay, which is source NET. We have route filtering. We have packet filtering, like mini firewall. All this will be the features that's readily available in the MCR. So lately, we also launched IPsec features on MCR, which customer can opt to purchase it if let's say you requires to use this feature. Okay, it will be and a top on kind of value added services on top of the MCR. Okay, another interesting thing about MCR is that we will allocate a public IP for connections to AWS and Azure public resources. So for example, if let's say you need to connect to a public resources, in AWS, okay, Microsoft needs you to have need you to bring a public IP before you can gain connection to them. Okay, so Megaport cloud router will actually allocate that public IP for you for that peering purposes. Okay, so if you don't have public IP, it's okay. You can consume our MCR, which will allocate this public IP for that features. Our MCR, we have many different capacity ranging from 1 gig to 100 gig, depending on the region. So in Singapore, we have up to 100 gig. Okay, so there's also a auto configurations of L3 to the CSP. Okay, so later on in the demo, I will show it to you. Okay. So as you can see from the diagram, this is how you can deploy a Megaport cloud router and connecting them to any of the cloud on the below diagram. Okay, you can form a BGP between the MCR and the cloud itself. Okay, and if you have requirements to extend the connection back to the on-prem, you can just deploy a port. Okay, which is on the top diagram. Okay, to connect the Megaport cloud router to the port. Okay, and then it will actually extend the traffic back to your on-prem. Okay. So this is to highlight to you that the features that we have. So for Megaport cloud router, we have this looking glass, okay, for you to have a single visibility into the traffic routing. The public IP address allocations for AWS and Azure, okay, is there. Okay, and security, we have like BGP authentication that you can set. Okay, so just to highlight that we also support some BGP routing features such as BFD, MED, ASP prepend, static routing, etc. Okay, so all this can is available as part of the feature inside the MCR. Okay, let me share a little bit more about the AWS Direct Connect model. So Megaport, we support three different type of AWS Direct Connect models. So we have the hosted virtual interface. We call it hosted VIV. We have hosted connection. Okay, we have dedicated connections. Okay. So for connections to AWS direct connections via hosted VIF, which is shown in the diagram. So this is how you can do the connections. So hosted VIF itself can be used to connect to the private AWS cloud services, okay, such as EC2, RDS, and also S3 and DynamoDB for public resources, okay. So it's depending on where you want to get connected to, okay. So just bear in mind that this model does not support transit gateway virtual interface. So if there's a requirement to connect transit gateway interface, I'll introduce in the next slide, okay. And the AWS Direct Connect port charges are included with Megaport order, okay. So that means when you order connections with us, so the AWS charges are included as part of the Megaport order, okay. So the maximum virtual cross connect speeds is like 5 gig as for now, okay. So this is how you can establish a connection. So for the diagram, it illustrates that from the port, the physical NNI perspective, you do a L2 to the AWS edges via the AWS Direct Connect. Okay, so this will be another model, which is the AWS hosted connection model, in short HC. Okay, so a hosted connection can support one private public and a transit with virtual interface. Okay, so what is a private virtual interface? So basically it's used to access an VPC using private IP. So a public virtual interface is to access your AWS public services using the public IP. And the transit VIF are basically used to access one or more VPC transit gateway associated with the direct connect gateway. Okay. So for example, you can use a hosted connection to attach a transit VIF to a AWS transit gateway as shown in the diagram. Okay. But bear in mind is that each hosted connections can support a single VIF, and you can obtain multiple VIF by configuring multiple hosted connections, okay, if that is your requirements, okay. So for this model, basically it's support for transit gateway. So if customers are looking to deploy a transit gateway, so you had to use a hosted connection model, okay. And the dedicated, this is a dedicated bandwidth with one-to-one subscriptions. However, you cannot change the speeds after you create the connection. So for example, let's say you started with a connections of like 5 gig and you want to up or down. So unfortunately, you had to create a new connections. The maximum VXC speeds supported is 25 gig as for now. Higher speed might be available depending on the locations and the port capability. So this model also support diverse AWS port for resilience, okay, and to avoid any single point of failure. So the AWS direct port charges are actually built by AWS, okay. So lastly, we have the third model, which is a direct connect dedicated connection model, okay. So this model itself can support up to 50 public or private VIF and up to 4 transit VIF, okay. So the total number of the VIF cannot exceed 51 per dedicated connection. So with this option, you basically provision a direct connect port in the AWS console, okay. So after that, you need to work with Megaport to set up a NNI, okay, between AWS port and Megaport port using a physical cross connect, okay, on the right hand side, okay. So you need to buy a port from AWS, you need to buy a port from Megaport, and then we will do an NNI using a physical cross connect, okay. And then over on the left hand side, this will be your network, okay. You also need to buy a port from Megaport, okay, and you NNI with your network, okay. And then you can use a private untapped VXC in between the two ports, okay, to create the connections, okay. So the key features include that you also cannot change the port speed after you create the connections. To change, you must create and configure new connections. This model support very large number of VPC, okay. It support for transit gateway configurations. And also to note that the AWS port charges are actually built by AWS, okay. Okay, so now it's time for a live demo. So in today's demo, I'm going to walk through with you how you can deploy a different AWS connection model through Megaport. Okay, so as you can see from your diagram, there'll be I will create a Megaport cloud router. Okay, and then you can establish two different connections to AWS via a hosted VIF and a hosted connections. Okay. And then on the left-hand side, it will be just an illustration that if the traffic is going to towards the branch offices, this is how you can link up the connections just through the port itself. Okay. Okay, so in my dashboard, okay, so this is a landing page, okay. Okay, so this shows Megaport point of presence around the world. The dots represent the data center that we are in. Click to zoom into it, okay. So this is a bird eye view of the dashboard. Okay, it will show you the number of ports that you currently have in your portal, the number of Megaport Cloud Connect that you deploy in our portal as well. So, okay. So without further ado, I will just head over to services. Okay, then first of all, I will create a Megaport Cloud Router. So watch out for the locations that you want to deploy. So for now, I will want to deploy in SG1, for example, or hit next. Okay. Yeah, so this is the bandwidth size for your router. So as I mentioned, depend on locations and region. So in Singapore, we have 1 gig to 100 gig. Okay. So for today's demo, I'm going to do a 50 gig MCR. Okay. And then I'll put a name, okay, for my MCR. I'll just say tag drop, okay, demo. As I mentioned just now, we also have these added on features like the IPsec, okay. So if there's a requirement to add an IPsec, you can add on here. There'll be another price associated with IPsec. Okay, so our IPsec come with different blocks of 10 tunnels, 20 and 30 tunnels, okay. So the price will different, so I just illustrate. So let's say you're interested, you can put 10 tunnels, okay. But I'm going to remove it because I'm not going to deploy, okay. So our services are all associated with some contract, okay. So with this, we can choose the no minimum term, that means no contract. If you want to have better cost saving, you can actually choose a longer contract, okay. So this will be very good for customers who need to do a migration, a short-term migration, probably for between cloud. You can actually just deploy a no minimum term, okay. So our MCI itself, we have a default public ASN, okay, 133.937. So if you have your own ASN that you want to use, feel free to change it, okay. Once we deploy the MCR, the changing of the ASN is not possible, okay. Okay, so I'll leave the rest of the setting to default and I'll hit next, okay. So as you can see, we have this thing called diversity zone, okay. That I'm going to deploy my Megaport cloud router in a red zone, which is another hardware, okay. Okay, once you are okay, you just review the order and you will say order now. Okay. Okay, so this will take some time to deploy, probably a few minutes, okay. So this is how fast I can set up my Megaport cloud router, okay, on demand. So next, I'm going to show you how I can create the AWS connections. So under the MCR itself, head over to connections, okay? Or if not, you can just head over to AWS here. I'll just press this connection. I will come to this page and I'll look out for cloud and look out for AWS, okay? For this AWS connection type, okay, as I mentioned, there's two models, hosted VIF and hosted connection, and the third one is dedicated. Okay, so you can choose a hosted view or hosted connections. I'll choose a hosted connection first because it will take a while to deploy. So for hosted connections, I will need to choose this model. So as you can see that there are many cloud on-ramp. Okay, so let's say I want to deploy in SG2. So for SG2, as you can see, we have this diversity zone, which is the AWS diverse connections. So usually we will try to match the MCR, which is in the cloud, which is in the red zone. We'll try to match it into red. Okay, so I'll just choose the red diversity zone in this case. I'll put a name for this. I will put backdrop hosted connection HC. The rate limit, I will just put a 50 meg. Okay, so same, likewise, same. Choose the contract that you want to enjoy. So I'll choose a no minimum term. I'll hit next. Okay. Over here, I'll just leave it blank first, and I'll just hit next. Okay, so you need to have your AWS account ID ready. Okay, so I have my AWS account ID ready. I'll hit next again. Okay, and then I will say add VXC. Okay, and then remember to review your order. And I'll say order now. Okay. So obviously, after you deploy the connections, you still need to go to your AWS to accept the VIF and then do some of the config. Okay. So this is how you can deploy a hosted connections. Okay. From the Megaport portal itself, but later on we still need to complete the connections, accept the connections in the AWS. Okay, let me head over to the AWS portal right now. Just let me do a refresh. Okay. Okay, this will again take some time, but it's okay. Let me head over here. Okay, it's waiting to allocate resource, so this will take some time. So without further ado, I will just show you how to create another connection to AWS using a hosted VIF. Okay. So I'll head over to the cloud. Okay. Head over to the AWS. Okay. So this time I'm going to choose a hosted VIF. Okay. Instead, so for hosted VIF, I need to choose the AWS on-ramp. I'm going to still choose the SG2. I'll hit next. I will put hosted VIF. Okay. For the rate limit, I will just choose 20 meg. Okay. No term as well. Okay. And I'll say next. Okay, do take note that for here, the MCR connection configuration will be generated, okay, automatically, okay. So newly BGP connection will be enabled. Okay, this is the part whereby if you have an MCR, all the L3 BGP connections can be made automatically by the system, okay. So I'll say next, okay. So this is the place whereby you need to decide whether you want to do a public or private VIF. Okay. Okay, before I move on, let me just go back to my AWS to make sure I saw the connection coming. Yes. Okay, so as you can see, just now I ordered a hosted connections. Okay. Now it's in the ordering stage. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to click over here. I'm going to accept here first. Okay. I'm going to accept the connections because after this, we still need to wait for probably a few more minutes before we can create the interface. Okay, so I'll just go back to the portal again. Okay, so for today, I'm going to show you how to create a connections through hosted VIF by using a public VIF. That means that customer is trying to connect to AWS public resources. Okay. Please note that for public VIF, it requires intervention from AWS. So AWS, there's an approval process that AWS will need to approve, okay, which may take up to 48 hours after you create the whole thing. Okay, likewise the same. Key in your account ID, okay, AWS account ID. So for the customer IP, you're expected to bring in the public IP, okay? Which I mentioned, if you buy a MCR from us, we will allocate that public IP. So you can just leave it blank, after the connections have been set up, you will see that we will allocate the public IP addresses for you. Okay, so I'll just leave it blank for now. Okay, then just check the setting, everything is okay. Then I will say add VXC. And then likewise for the same thing, I will review order. I will say order now. Okay, this will again take a few minutes, okay? But as you can see, it's very simple to configure, okay? Just needs your service ID, you know, and the settings that you require for your requirements. You are able to establish that connection, you know, as fast as 60 seconds, okay? So let me just head back to the hosted connection again, okay? Okay. I'm just waiting for it to be up first before we begin the connections. So let me head over to AWS again now. Okay, good. So as you can see, the hosted connection that I configure now is available. Okay, so need to make sure that it's available before you can continue the other step. Okay, but before that, let me go to the virtual interface to see whether my public VIS have been up. Okay. Let's go to the hosted connections. Okay, so what you need to do next is that for hosted connections, you need to complete the step, okay? So for here, we will choose a private interface, okay? You can actually choose private, public, or transit, depending on requirement. For today's demo, I'll just choose a private, okay? So I will set the name. I'll just put a test HC, okay? And I will connect to my tag drop, okay? Hosted connection. I will choose my direct connect gateway, and I'll key my ASN over here. Okay, if you have your router IP, you can put it. If not, it will be auto assigned. So I'll just create over here. So as you can see, I've already created interface. The status is still pending. Okay, this will again take a few minutes, you know, for it to get completed. Okay, so let me do a refresh again. Okay, so let's go back to our hosted connections. Okay, so this is the hosted connections. Okay, so this is the IP address being assigned. Okay, so what we need to do next is that we need to complete the configuration in the portal itself. Okay, so using the configuration over here, okay, I will quickly go back to the portal. Okay, for my hosted connections. As you can see that we need to set up the interface IP, all this. So I'll quickly fill out over here. Okay, I'll add the BGP. And then I'll head over back to the peering IP. So I'll copy over here. And then I'll head over to the authentication, the password, the BGP password. Peering ASN 65500. Okay, I will add. Okay, make sure you add properly. Okay, then you'll say save. Okay, so this is how you can configure the interface. Okay. Okay, so again, this will take few minutes, you know, for the BGP to come up. Okay, just let me go back to the dashboard again. I'm going back to my hosted VIF connection. Okay, which you configure the public IP. Okay. So as you can see, Megaport MCR will allocate the IP for you. Okay, so we actually allocate the IP addresses for you already, which is 117.18. Okay. So this is a page whereby just now we leave it blank. So MCR allocate the IP. Okay. So this is how you can make use of Megaport Cloud Router to get the public IP for your public peering. Okay. So let me go back over here. Hosted view. Okay. So just take note that the BGP status will be down because we need to wait for AWS to approve, okay, which will take up 48 hours. Okay, so once AWS approve, okay, the BGP status will be up. Okay. Yeah. So that's all for hosted VIF connection. Okay. So let me head back to the hosted connections. Okay. Okay, so for hosted connections, okay, just now we use the informations from the AWS portal for your peering purposes. So the IP has been allocated, okay, 169, and then AWS peering IP allocated as well. And we did the peer, so we need to wait for another few more minutes for the BGP status to be up, okay? So you can check the BGP status either in the AWS portal itself. If not, you can head over to Megaport portal, yeah, to check on the configuration. Okay. Okay. So, okay, so as you can see, the BGP has been up over here. Okay, so I think it take a while for AWS portal to reflect as well. So the BGP has been up. Okay. So this is how you can make use of Megaport hosted connections. Okay. Yeah. And lastly, just to show you on the looking glass, as we mentioned earlier in the slide, okay? So this is the place whereby you can check on the looking glass. Okay. So for the looking glass, you are able to check the BGP tables, okay? Your route tables, okay? Okay. So if you have more MCR itself, you are able to check your MCR status through this drop-down list as well. Yeah. So yeah. So that's all for my demo. I have come to the end. Thank you so much for your time. I hope that this session is helpful. So if you have any question, feel free to leave them on LinkedIn and I'll get back to you, or you can send me an email. So wishing you a good Friday. Thank you.